thank you to Ernesto and his team at North Star Alliances and Raquel from Pat Brown Institute for just the amazing work in putting this together. So I wanted to do that up front because everybody waits till the end. Oh, before everybody leaves, thank you. So amazing work, thanks. Um, it's great to be here in Downey. I think as we've been talking about, and we're doing work with a variety of stakeholders to envision this study, and more importantly, to envision the way that we could use it to have a conversation. We made it an important priority and a principle to say this convening has to happen in the Southeast. It's too many times where you say, we want to talk about the Southeast, so come to downtown. And it's like, you come to us so we could talk about you. So I think it's an important statement to say, no, we're going to come to you, and we can come together in the community to talk about the community. So I'm very excited to have had the opportunity to do that. And that doesn't come just out of just thinking about the right thing. There is some personal bias. So today I wanted to kick off our welcome and hopefully set us off with a personal story, and that is I grew up just on the other side of the river. It's not the tracks, it's a river that divides us, in the city of Bell Gardens. And I remember Downey was a place that you didn't come to because the cops would harass you, right? It's like, wait, it's the kids from, the brown kids from Bell Gardens are crossing over, coming to the theater. They're going to start messing things up. So you grew up with that, like, we don't go to Downey. But I feel welcome in Downey now, so it's good. I bring that up, though, because I think there's a lot of conversations right now in the region about what is the future of Los Angeles. And I think Sacramento and the leadership in Sacramento have created tremendous opportunities for us to thrive with some of the most impactful and progressive legislation that we've seen in our history. But then that begs the question, how do we take advantage of that? How do we do that? And when you're talking about Los Angeles, it's such a world city, and so much attention goes to the city of Los Angeles, and oftentimes rightly so. It's our window into the world. It's oftentimes our representative as a region to the rest of the world. But the reality is that when we're talking about building a thriving region, it's hubs like the Southeast that have actually throughout history made that difference, that have provided that. And my own personal story growing up in Bell Gardens is I can tell you about getting into a lot of trouble. I can tell you about having to take the long route through school and through college. But the truth is that the more I looked at some of this data as we were preparing for the summit, the more that I realized that it's a region that actually gave me a lot, right? It's a region where my parents were able to get us a house where we could have a front yard, where we could play outside, where we had access to Ford Park in Bell Gardens. And that really set us off on a trajectory to really have something. They achieved their own American dream. And I think what's happened is, how do we get back to that, right? And for me, this is a very personal initiative. This is an initiative that's about how do we go back and make things better for what I had for others, and more importantly, let people understand that as we think about a thriving region, that we can't forget about this region, that it's a heart and soul for the overall LA County, and we have to break out of the city of LA. And I'm so excited to have a lot of our colleagues from Philanthropy, Liberty Hill, Weingart Foundation really invested in thinking about this region and understanding that our future is in these communities, and that's where we're going to build to strengthen the entire region. So with that, I just want to share that our vision for this summit and bringing people together was really to try and construct a new narrative. I have an opportunity, whether it's through the foundation or in my previous work at Naleo, to travel around the country, and it gets a little tiring after a while that when you tell people where you grew up or where you're from, they're like, oh, is that close to Bell? Oh, is that close to Maywood? Oh, is that close to Cudahy? It's like, do you really know the people who live there? Because there's a lot of great things happening in those areas. So our vision for today was, how do we use data and how do we use your voices to begin to construct a new narrative that's based on, hey, there's potential and there's a lot of opportunity, so let's start focusing on that and constructing a narrative of progress versus a narrative of how to fix things that are broken. And so we're hoping that this helps to do that, and more importantly, do it in a way that brings multiple sectors together. I spend a lot of time in the region, and I have to tell you that it takes 3 meetings to be able to see everybody that's in this room, right? It takes the meeting where the corporate folks are doing the good work and the goodwill and gathering folks. It takes the meeting of contract cities or California cities to see all the local electeds. And then it takes some convening at TCE to see all the nonprofits and learn about what they're doing. So to be able to have a conversation that brings all of these sectors together, including philanthropy as a partner and a voice, I think is very remarkable and part of our vision. So our goal specifically for the summit today is really just to generate some enthusiasm, but more importantly, to spark good conversation. The data is not going to speak for itself. I think the story of what the data is and what the opportunities are with that data lies in you and your creativity, your thoughts, and your knowledge and experience about the region. So we're going to encourage you to definitely be part and help us spark this conversation. And I hope the mic sliding down is not part of where the room is going right now. So I'm going to wrap this up. So a lot of this work doesn't happen on its own. And at least for California Community Foundation, we want to say that for us, this is about listening. This is about being here and partnering, right? It's not about a crafty initiative or something that sounds exciting. It's about just really rolling up sleeves and starting to hear where we can plug in and what we can do. So certainly take us as that way. A lot of this work and what you see here today is not really anything that's born out of working with the great Rafe Sonnenschein. I just by a show of hands, how many of you have been in one of Rafe's classes or have met him and interacted with him in some way? Just, wow. You need to increase your footprint. I was thinking the whole room was going to do that. It was really born out of a collaboration with a number of leaders here in the region who had the vision to say this is something important, this could be useful for the work that we're doing, who more importantly were willing to commit to spending time and sharing their thoughts and oftentimes challenging some of the thoughts we had about what this summit could be. And more importantly, which is always what makes a difference, being willing to put their skin in the game, right? Being willing to say, yes, list me, yes, I will be there, yes, I will have there. So in spirit of being able to put skin in the game, and also as a way of just recognizing a lot of the hard work and commitment of these individuals, I want to ask the folks who served on the working group to help envision and more importantly bring this to fruition. If you could just quickly just stand up so that folks could see who you are. I don't have a list, so I'll probably leave folks out. So if you were on the working group, can you just stand up so folks can recognize the work that you've done in putting this together? Victor. So thank you all. So now we're ready to actually move on with our program and listen to folks who really have things to say. So it's, you know, a lot of conversations rarely go anywhere. They're just great conversations, good food, coffee, good networking, and everybody goes back to doing their work. But I think where things change and you begin to really see that there's force and that there's impetus behind something and people walk away with energy to act is when leadership serves as a catalyst, right? When you see that leadership identifies that something is important, leadership comes and shares their vision, begins to craft it together with you. And I think today we're very honored and privileged to have great leadership that will help to kick things off for us and hopefully create that energy and be that catalyst for us to really go forth here after today and get some real important work done. There's no greater honor and privilege to have leadership that's local, right? So I have the privilege of introducing our very own speaker, Anthony Rendon, who grew up here in the local area, a neighborhood boy from Whittier, and a graduate of our Cal State system out in Fullerton. The guy's everything, right? He's a PhD, he was an activist, a nonprofit executive, an educator, and I think it's those experiences that are really born out to be the foundation for what has been a very dynamic and energizing leadership in the Speaker's office, taking California into one of its most successful legislative sessions in history and really helping to put California back on the world stage on a progressive end, on an end that puts people, not politics, first. So I think there's a lot to be said of that, and I think we're all fortunate to have the opportunity to have him here with us this morning, and more importantly, to help share some of his thoughts and encouragement for us here in the event. So with that, I will invite our speaker, Anthony Rendon, to join us here up at the podium and ask you to welcome him.